There are lots of subclasses in Baldur's Gate 3. With 12 classes and now 4 subclasses each, 48 options is plenty to choose from. Combine that with the seamless ability to multi-class, the capacity for another playthrough is just one press of the new game button away. But how do all the subclasses stack up against each other? Which ones are inherently not as fantastic as the other ones? Well, in this video today, I want to take a look at these subclasses that I feel don't really perform that well. This could be because of their late game progression, resulting in a feeling of underpowered gameplay until max level, poor game mechanic interaction, or just lackluster implementation from the tabletop perspective. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos. So let me go through these subclasses I think could use some work or just aren't as amazing. Starting us off, both the schools of Illusion and Enchantment for Wizard, Arcane Trickster for Rogue, Beastmaster for Ranger, both Way of the Drunken Master, and the 4 Elements from Monk, Trickery Domain from Cleric, Wild Magic Barbarian, both colleges of Glamour and Valor for Bard, and lastly, the Champion Fighter. Now, let me get this out of the way right now. If you're brand new to the game or thinking of making a playthrough with any of these subclasses, then please just go ahead and do it. Do not listen to what the internet says. The best and worst subclasses are the ones you enjoy and dislike. You paid your money, so you play how you want. What I'm really looking at here is the subclasses in a vacuum or compared to the other subclasses in their class kit. You have to remember, you play this game across a party of 4, so any of the weaknesses of these classes are easily shored up by any of the other 3 members. So if you've made a character with any of the aforementioned subclasses, they'll be just fine. And you might find fun interactions with the mechanics that I don't bring up here today, so have a ball. But if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down. As always, I want to be respectful of your time. You can jump to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters of the timeline and description. And before you head out, if you find the information in this video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those things helps me out in a huge way. Also, take a look at my Twitch linked in the comment and description, where I am streaming my Evil Dark Urge build, as well as a number of other things, including Dune on the horizon. But let's get started on the worst subclasses in Baldur's Gate 3. So we're going to do this kind of low tech here. I'm going to be showing off the BG3 wiki because it's the easiest way for me to talk about mechanics and bounce around and highlight specific things. It's a little bit harder to do that in the actual game, and I don't have tons of really cool editing magic. To start us off with magic, we're going to talk about Wizard. So Illusion, or School of Illusion, is our first discussion point. And every single school, remember, will always have this, so it's kind of a moot point, but this is learning these spells will only cost 25 GP per spell level rather than the standard 50. To start us off, we get improved Minor Illusion. So you can cast Minor Illusion as a bonus action, which is a little bit nice. You can remain hidden while casting the spell, and it can be used while silenced. Minor Illusion does fall off in its overall usefulness. It's pretty much just kind of used out of combat, more so than it is in combat, in my opinion. And I just don't really get as much use here for Improved Minor Illusion, which is your first level 2 ability, whereas almost every other school, Abjuration, Conjuration, not Enchantment, because we're going to talk about that, Transmutation, Blade Singing, Necromancy, they all have a better level 2 capability than this. So I really just feel that this already puts us on the back foot. Into level 6, once per short rest, which isn't terrible, as an action, which is terrible, you can cast a spell See Invisibility without consuming a spell slot. This is okay. You know, Warlock has a lot of these too, where it's like you can get to use this without casting a spell slot. I don't really like to use a lot of those interactions. I'd rather just use my action on something that is a little bit more pivotal to the fight. Pivotal to the fight. And I'll be honest, in the 1,000+ hours I've put into this game, I have not once cast See Invisibility, even though I know it's going to help me with 2 boss fights in the game. By level 6, you're beyond that boss fight, likely. So See Invisibility to me, it loses its luster. I cast Fairy Fire and get a lot of the same application of See Invisibility, and then get also the ability to get advantage on everyone within the range of the Fairy Fire, yourself included, so you have to be careful. But See Invisibility as an action, I'd rather not do that. I'd rather just cast something destructive and help out with other portions of the battlefield rather than just using See Invisibility. And the only thing in the Illusion School that is quite nice is Illusory Self, but there is a bit of a caveat to this. So, as a reaction, you magically fashion an illusory duplicate of yourself when attacked, causing the attack to miss. After this, the ability cannot be used until after a short rest. So on a short rest, it's nice. and it does give us some defensive mechanics into our reaction, which is good. But we're a wizard, Harry, and as a result, there's just my reaction already is jammed up with two really good capabilities: Counterspell and Shield. So I'm not going to want to throw Illusory Self into this. I'd rather just use Shield, which is, yeah, sure, it's going to cost me a spell slot, but the nice thing is Shield lasts me the entire round of combat until my turn again. Illusory Self only is going to work on that specific damage instance. So if I'm surrounded by 3 people and one person attacks me and I use Illusory Self, I no longer get a reaction anymore, and I've only mitigated damage from one of those swings. The other 2 are still going to like hit on board. So I'd rather use Shield, even on a level 1 spell slot, than use my Arcane Recovery to get that spell slot back, whatever it is, and get the AC bonus across the rest of that combat round. So that's why Illusion just doesn't really hit for me. Another big portion or big thing against Illusion is that this is the same thing Enchantment's going to have. There's not a ton of really amazing Illusion spells. There are some really good ones. You know, I mean, Shadowblade's amazing, right? Everyone talks about it right now. But Hypnotic Pattern's quite good. And I don't think that this is a... Elusive Illusions are only available. I'm not an NPC. I mean, in the real world, perhaps, whatever. Phantasmal Killer is pretty nice. Greater Invisibility is really fun. There's a lot of cheese around it. Fear can be really cool. Mirror Image is great. But that's really it, right? Like, that's like the extent of our illusion spells, the ones that really stand out. Whereas Evocation has an extremely long list. Even Necromancy's got a pretty decent list. That's one of the big downfalls here for Illusion. And Enchantment has a lot of the same stuff when it comes to the shortcomings. So the Enchantment school here has Hypnotic Gaze. So once per long rest, use an action. I already don't like the amount of economy that's going to cost me on a target that's 5 feet away. They have to then use a Wisdom save to become Charmed. Charmed just means that you cannot attack the caster. It'll still attack other people, but it also becomes incapacitated, so it can't do crap. So that's nice. But if you hit it, it's no longer incapacitated. So that the effect itself ends. So no longer incapacitated or charmed. So that is rough and tumble. And it costs you an action to extend that. So there's a lot of action economy that goes into Hypnotic Gaze, whereas I just rather do more damage. A lot of the things that are the shortcomings here is that this is using action economy versus a lot of the other spell schools are passive bonuses to your already existing actions and bonus actions you're going to take. So Hypnotic Gaze just falls short for me. Instinctive Charm has the disadvantage of being a reaction again. Charm an enemy that attacks you. Not actual charm, but they must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw or attack a new target if possible. So this doesn't really help you outside of the single damage instance that you're going to be dealt. Again, you're better off just using Shield than actually getting to deal with all this. So if a target succeeds on a saving throw, it cannot be affected by this ability until after a long rest. So you have that attached to it as well. Instinctive Charm just doesn't, I'd just rather use Shield. It just doesn't really kind of hit home for me. Level 10, Split Enchantment. You know your enchantment inside and out. You can target 2 creatures with enchantment spells that would normally only target 1 creature. That's cool. Again, this is a level 10 ability that is great, just like the illusion one is. What I will say for both schools, though, is like you're probably more likely not to be on that class anymore. Not all the time do people go 10 pure levels of wizard. So here are all of the enchantment spells. Again, not a ton of them. And some of them you can't even take as a wizard. Vicious Mockery being one of them. Command, I believe, is another one that you can't take as a wizard. I could be wrong there. It shows who can learn it. Yeah, you can't take it as a wizard. Dissonant Whispers, again, you cannot take as a wizard. Hex, you cannot take as a wizard, as I check and I make sure that I'm right, and I am correct. Yeah. So a lot of the enchantment abilities, which are great, you can't take. But Enthrall's really good. Hold Person's amazing. Confusion's really good. Dominate and hold, Dominate Person and Hold Monster. They're all really great, and so is Otto's Irresistible Dance. So I don't want to completely crap on it, but I do want to let it be known that there's just not a whole ton of spells you're going to take advantage of whilst using Illusion. Let's now move to our next class. Next up here is the Arcane Trickster. And the Arcane Trickster got some love in patch 8. And it's actually a class I think it has grown on me. I used to think it was the single worst subclass, if I'm being totally honest with you. But using stuff like specific rings, I think it's called the Ring of the Arcane Scoundrel. You get it in Act 3 from the Genie. It's a really great ring because it allows you to use all the spell types that the Arcane Trickster can use as a bonus action. It's like, oh man, that's really sick. So that's a really great feature of it. But the biggest problem is the Mage Hand Legerdemain is not amazing in this game's application. It's way better in tabletop. The spells that they get access to, they don't really have a lot of really good longevity, I guess you could say, because your spell slots are kind of limited. You have to split how you invest because this is an intelligence requirement. So you're gonna have to put points into dexterity, constitution, and intelligence, or use the crown of intelligence that sets your intelligence to 16, 17, whatever it is. So the best thing about it though is you get Shadowblade from this, and Shadowblade has just become such a great ability. So it has made Arcane Trickster a lot better of a class. It did not used to be, because you could use this with Booming Blade. So Arcane Trickster now has a lot better teeth, but I will say, counterpoint to that, it requires you then to play specifically that way to get the most out of the class, which is not that fun to me. When I can play so many other classes that are using Shadowblade right now, we've seen like 100 broken builds that use Shadowblade. And I don't want to always just say, yeah, if you want to play Arcane Trickster, use Shadowblade. You should be playing Arcane Trickster however the hell you want. And its kit should give you enough tools to do the destruction you need. So that's kind of the biggest downfall of the Arcane Trickster. The Arcane Trickster, though, does get a lot better, and that is another big thing here, too. So while you're hiding, your targets have disadvantage on saving throws against your spells, which is a really cool capability here. So they get fun interplay with their spell casting and their rogue capabilities that you can play around with. It's just the problem is that they don't get enough of them. When you think of like the Eldritch Knight, which is basically the fighter's version of an Arcane Trickster, right? With different school emphasis and using illusion and what have you. The fighter gets stuff like war magic and a bunch of other really cool passive abilities, just like magical ambush, that the Arcane Trickster doesn't. The Arcane Trickster is basically a rogue that can use 2 schools of wizard magic plus occasional other magic. And that's it. And that's, I think, kind of the downfall of it. There's not enough going in this kit that presents itself in Baldur's Gate, that does present itself in tabletop, that makes me really want to choose the Arcane Trickster over a rogue or an assassin or the new one that came out, Swashbuckler. And I think another big thing too with the rogue is it's probably one of the most multi-classed subclasses or multi-class class where you're going to sprinkle either a little bit of rogue or come out of rogue, because rogue does not have access to extra attack, and extra attack is such a huge power spike in this game that building it into a rogue character has become pretty crucial. So this doesn't fill any of those holes. It just says, hey, use like Mirror Image, Shadowblade, and Booming Blade and go to town and only do those things. But I just want you as the player playing an Arcane Trickster to feel like you've got more tools at your disposal. So you would use, just so you can see what it is, Scoundrel. This should pop it up. Yeah, Band of the Mystic Scoundrel. After hitting a creature with a weapon attack, you can use an illusion or enchantment spell as a bonus action. So once you get this in Act 3, the Arcane Trickster starts to really feel alive because you'll be able to use this to get more action economy out of the character. You go and use a sneak attack with your primary action, then use your bonus action to cast any of the many illusion and enchantment spells, both of which we've just said don't have tons of options in this game, on your target. Now let me stop you right here. Beastmaster is my favorite ranger. It's like my favorite subclass, period. It was the first character I made in Baldur's Gate 3. I do not think it is a terrible subclass, despite it being on this list. The problem with the Beastmaster is that you feel underpowered for too much of the gameplay of the class. You start off feeling, this feels great. This feels okay. Oh man, I'm at a dirge. There's like a huge sink in the viability of the class until you get to the end. Then the class spikes in power again. So I don't think it's terrible because it's underperforming. I think that it's got a really not great player experience, and that's why it's on this list. It's something that I played through, and I actually had to make a new subclass where I went 8 Beastmaster, 4 Battlemaster fighter to actually feel like I was doing more with the character. That allowed me to really get a lot out of it. So what we can see here is we get are really sick companion, and the companions are really good. There's a bunch of different ones, and they all have really awesome applications. The wolf spider is really awesome. The wolf is great. The dire raven, despite it being a raven, is one of the best ones. Like, they're all so good. Then at level 5, they receive a bonus to their armor class and damage equal to your proficiency bonus. That's going to scale, right? 2, 3, and 4. So that's really nice. Upgraded hit points and abilities for your companion and a new visual look. They start to get more and more armor on them. This is sick. Then at level 7, this is one of the best things about them. Your summoned companions can now dash, disengage, and help as a bonus action. So that if someone's knocked prone or whatever it is, I need to have help used on them, you can have a raven fly to them, use it, and they're back in the fight. That is amazing. Then at level 8, upgraded hit points for your companion. So what you'll notice though, is between these 3 brackets of power increase, this beast doesn't get extra attack. And extra attack is such a requirement for melee characters in this game, especially a character that you cannot play with their actual power via weapons. You have no way to scale your summon creature up except if you hit these breakpoints, 5, 7, and 8. Then at 11, grant all your companions an extra attack. I think Larian should have just put this at 7. Or, I mean, yeah, put it at 5 if you want to give it extra attack when the ranger gets extra attack. But the fact that this comes at 11 means you as a Beastmaster Ranger can't really multi-class into anything without taking all of the strength away from your summon, because that's the whole point. You're playing a Beastmaster is to have a summon, right? So now you need to go 11 Beastmaster to get the benefit of this. Then you can sprinkle 1 point into any other class, right? Fighter maybe for whatever it is. But you're probably just going to go 12 Ranger at that point. And that's what I used to do. I was 11 and then a 12 Ranger, and I was like, I feel like I'm not doing enough because I didn't get this until the end, and now I feel like my character finally has stuff it can do. Upgrades the hit points, and your companions get new abilities, and they get a new visual look. So they get even more armor on them. 11 is the best point because now your Beastmaster feels like a master of beasts. It's just the point is that by the time you're there, you just have felt like between these 2 points, truly after 8, before 12 or 11 for this matter, you feel like there's a hard drop off because you hang out in those levels. I would argue the longest of any levels in the game, because you're level 8 around I would say the beginning 1/3 of Act 2, and then you're level 11 by the beginning of Act 3, and then you become 12 pretty quickly into Act 3. So I mean, I guess you could argue too that you're probably level 12 for the longest of any one level, but you spend almost an entire act worth being very underpowered compared to the rest of this journey, which you felt pretty good, pretty on par. You start to feel that power wane around here. So that's why it's on this list. Again, I absolutely love this. It's one of my favorite subclasses. It's the one I actually rolled on my main character, the one you guys have all seen in all my build videos. He was originally a Beastmaster. Moving over to the monk, we have the Way of the Drunken Master. Now, this, of course, is one of the new patch 8 subclasses. And I think the problem with it is it just doesn't feel like it's doing much at all. It's a Larian homebrew one where it does exist in 5th edition, for I understand. It's just this has gotten a lot of homebrew stuff. So you get performance, which is cool. You're immune to the negative effects of being drunk, which is nifty. Once per day, when you drink alcohol, you regain half your key points. Really sick. So there's some cool interactions there. Then you get this specific technique, and it's important here. Drunken technique. Punch twice in quick succession and grant yourself an additional movement and the benefits of disengage. Flurry of blows is replaced by drunken technique. So you no longer get flurry of blows, which is no big deal. This is better anyway. So there's that. That's okay. That's pretty cool. It's thematic. Then we get Intoxicating Strike. Hit a creature with your bare fists and possibly get them drunk. What does drunk do? Let's find out. Has disadvantage on dex and charisma checks. That's it. That's all. That's all it does, just so we know. Life of the party. Every time Intoxicating Strike hits, the monk gains life of the party, which increases armor class and attack rolls against drunk targets. So far, so good, right? That's all pretty damn cool. And in my mind, there's a cool build I can make around this. I haven't finalized it. So you get some cool capabilities up to level 4. And being a monk in general, there's a lot of really great stuff you get. Into level 6, we get leap to your feet when you're prone. Setting up uses half the movement. That's a feat worth of passive ability built into your character, which is great. I think it's mobile, has that. Maybe it's athlete. I think it's athlete, actually. When a creature misses you with a melee attack, you can spend 1 key point as a reaction to make an unarmed attack against the attacker. Now, that's great and all, but there are so many monk items that do this already. So I guess that makes you non-reliant on those monk items, which is pretty cool, but it does kind of crowd up your reaction space. So there is something to consider there. Then into level 9, we get something that just is not awesome. Hit a drunk target, which you've done with Intoxicating Strike, and sober them up by dealing bonus psychic damage. On a successful hit, the monk loses life of the party. This is the biggest shortcoming of the entire subclass. Because the point here is you're punching them with Intoxicating Strike. Intoxicating Strike is building your stacks of life of the party. +1 AC and +1 wisdom modifier bonus to attack rolls against drunk targets. I'm sorry, +1 bonus AC and wisdom modifier. And you stack this. Every time the monk hits, the monk gains life of the party, which increases AC and attack rolls against drunk targets. So when you blow it up using Sobering Realization, you're going to do this. It's not enough damage to really lose all the benefit of it. And even then, it's not that much of a benefit to begin with, right? So you're doing basically 3 or 4 psychic damage. Well, 2d8 plus 3 or 4 psychic damage, maybe 5, depending on how you've done your wisdom modifier. So you just don't get a ton of a ton of return on this character beyond level 4. Level 6 is cool and all to being able to leap to prone, but that kind of is whatever. Then into level 11, when you make an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw and have a disadvantage on the roll, you can spend 2 key points to negate the disadvantage for that roll. I mean, that's cool, but it's a lot of resource investment here for something that is a level 11 ability that, to be honest, you're going to burn through that so quickly if you're always using it. I just feel like the Way of the Drunken Fist or Drunken Master doesn't really come online and stay online. It comes online on 4 and that's like it. I really don't want to get rid of life of the party. I'd rather have better wisdom modifier because I'm going to use so many things that are going to give me bonuses to my wisdom modifier than I would just wanting to get rid of it in the armor class, right? Let me get the benefit to my attack rolls because the monk is an offensive character. I want to take the advantage of that as best I can by having life of the party online the entire time. I think if this didn't cost life of the party, I would actually have no problem with this subclass. But I think the fact that it does, and this is one of the vehicles of our damage, is one of the biggest shortcomings of this subclass. And into the same thing here, we have a Way of the 4 Elements monk, which has a lot of really sick abilities. I think as a pure character, it really falls short, but I think as a subclass, it's really fun. Personally, when I played monk, this is the one I used. So while it's on this list, it's also my favorite monk because it's like playing a monk from Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? So I really like it. And Fangs of the Fire Snake is probably like one of the best fire spells in the whole entire game. It's really, really fun. So I actually really like this class, but I noticed that, a lot of this doesn't really get better until level 9. And by then you're going to feel so far behind the curve of your actual damage. You're going to be like, I'm a very underpowered monk right now. And I'm not going to be, see the problem too, I think the biggest problem with all of the monk subclasses is that the Way of the Open Hand exists. And the Way of the Open Hand is such a disgusting amount of damage that you're like, well, do I want to take this over the Way of the Open Hand? And I think in a min-max universe, sure. Yeah, go for Way of the Open Hand. I've done it before and it's stupid broken. But I love the themes and the fun and the crunchiness of this character. It's why I went with a 4 Elements monk. So I think that's kind of something that's always weighed against all these things when you look at the conversations online about how monks perform. But I still think that the progression for this character doesn't feel very awesome. You don't really get, you pretty much have the same abilities from the start. You get a couple more right here, and then you get these final 3 right here. Flames of the Phoenix is the only one I'd probably ever use of this whole entire lot because I'm jumping around so much as a monk. And they already benefit. They already get their max, rolls here. Like, so their Flames of the Phoenix here is going to do 8d6 fire damage, which is pretty substantial. And the rest of these are going to get better at, all of the previous abilities get better at level 9. So there is that. But I unfortunately just feel like there's not enough interplay too between the 4 elements monk and gameplay mechanics. Like there's not a lot of items that really buff specifically the 4 elements monk. They just buff monk, which inherently will buff some of these abilities, but not a whole ton. I would have liked to have seen a stronger play into this. There are specific monk robes that are themed on specific elemental damage, but not enough to really make the 4 elements monk go, wow, I need these items and it breaks this build. Switching into Cleric, we have the Trickery domain, the default domain of Shadowheart. And I've made a build that makes this one work a little bit better, but I think that the Trickery domain it's one of those domains that I think is better in tabletop because tabletop exists in the conversation of D&D, right? In the, how do I sneak around this? How do I use the trickery to the best of my ability versus the scripts and AI of a video game. It's just a shortcoming of playing it within the confines of that. And looking at the Trickery domain here, we've got Blessing of the Trickster, grant another creature advantage on stealth checks. Great, but just kind of a wonky implementation of how you use it. Invoke Duplicity is actually kind of fun. Distract your enemies with an illusion. Within 10 feet, attack rolls have advantage for you and your allies. This can be really fun, especially if you have a another rogue in the build. Or, I'm sorry, in the in your party. Trickery domain does work really well with a rogue subclass. You can mix the two together and have a lot of fun, especially with Invoke Duplicity. But it just doesn't really feel strong throughout the entirety of the game. Your domain spells, Mirror Image is cool, Pass Without a Trace, not so much. Bestow Curse, okay. Fear, better. But level 6, Channel Divinity, Cloak of Shadows, wrap yourself in shadows to become invisible if you're obscured. As far as Channel Divinities go, that's pretty low on the totem pole of actual ones that are going to help you in the middle of a good fight. Because you're a Cleric, and Cleric has access to one of the strongest abilities, right? Let's take a look in a book, Reading Rainbow. It is right here, as I keep going past it. Level 5 Cleric is right here. Spirit Guardians. Spirit Guardians is one of the best abilities in the game. So you're already probably going to be at least in a mid to close range using your Spirit Guardians to roast things anyway. Trickery domain just doesn't really benefit from staying in the shadows unless you play a character that needs to be in the shadows, a la a rogue subclass. You gain spells from the domain, they're always prepared. Dimension Door, good. Polymorph, not amazing. Divine Strike, poison, not amazing. Divine Strike is one of those things that, since you're going 8 levels into Cleric, it's with the game trying to reward you for not getting extra attack, right? So once per turn, deal 1d8 poison in addition to your weapon's damage when you make a melee attack. So, and it recharges per turn. So basically the game's like, okay, you're going probably pure Cleric or something close to it. You get Divine Strike to make up for the fact you don't have extra attack. Then lastly, level 9, Dominate Persons, not bad at all. Seeming used to have a lot of really fun cheese attached to it, but not so much anymore. So you can see that there's just not a lot of really great things you get from a domain spell perspective, not a lot of great things you get from a Channel Divinities perspective. It just doesn't feel like a kit that really has a lot of power to keep you in the long form. It just needs to be put into another class to really benefit the most. Wild Magic Barbarian. Now, don't get me wrong here. I actually love the Wild Magic Barbarian, but I love all the other Barbarian subclasses more. Wild Magic Barbarian, I did one a playthrough where Gale was a Wild Magic Barbarian, and I thought it was a really cool thing. I mixed him in with a 4 elements monk, and it worked really well, and it was really cool. The best thing that the Wild Magic Barbarian has going for it is, so we're going to talk about that in a sec, all these capabilities. They can act as a spell battery. You are an ally recovery level 1, level 2, level 3 spell slots. So you can give level 3 spell slots to people and just recharge on a long rest. It's a great way to just help charge up a magic party. They also get unstable backlash while raging. When you take damage or fail a saving throw, you trigger another wild magic effect. What are our wild magic effects? So what I like about the Wild Magic Barbarian that I don't like about the Wild Sorcerer is the majority of the Wild Sorcerer things are, well, wild. They're not amazing. But all the other abilities that the Wild Sorcerer has are really good. Like Tides of Chaos is great, and all their other capabilities they get at like 6 and 11. They're pretty cool. The Wild Magic ones here are pretty cool though. You can now deal 1d6 force damage with your weapon. It's light and its thrown properties. Magic Retribution. You are protected by wild vengeful enemies. By magic. Enemies that hit you take 1d6 force damage. Protective Lights. You and your allies within 10 feet have 1 AC. So you can see almost all of these are beneficial except for Dark Tendrils, and this isn't even terrible. Shadowy Tendrils lash outwards from you. Each creature within 30 feet of you must succeed a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or take 1d12 necrotic damage. Additionally, you gain 10 hit points. So it actually is really beneficial, but it just is going to hurt your party. So that's the only real bad one of this entire list. So this is like the best thing that the Wild Magic Barbarian has going for it. I just think, again, this is kind of like the Open Hand Monk. The Wild Heart Barbarian is so damn good. The Berserker Barbarian is so fun. The new Giant Barbarian, dude, chucking people is a blast. That the Wild Magic Barbarian, I'm always like, it's really fun, it's really cool, it's very flavorful. But what if I just, did like Wild Heart for the 15th time? Like, that's, I think, the biggest problem with it. And there's not enough items or interplay in the game that really plays into Wild Magic Barbarian in a way that I would have really liked. There's really only one Wild Sorcerer necklace that has an ability too. So I think that's one thing, that there are certain subclasses that don't really benefit from any items in the game, whereas some subclasses benefit from almost too many items in the game, and it just makes them disgustingly broken. Moving into my favorite class in the game, we have the Bard. And College of Valor is actually the college I wanted to play in tabletop, so it has a near and dear place in my heart. But as we move into its abilities, this is all we get. It does get proficiency in medium armor. The only other one that gets this is swords, and we get access to all martial weapons as well as shields. Those are actually really nice things because bards don't natively get shields, so shields are quite good in this game depending on how you're going to roll with them. Now, combat inspiration, don't get me wrong, it is quite good. Inspire an ally to add a 1d6 bonus to their next attack roll, ability check, saving throw, weapon damage, or armor class. So you can use this as a lot of different ways, and this can be set up as a reaction. I believe so that you can use it whenever someone, and it's also scaled, right, to 1d8 and 1d12. And you can use it whenever people, when we're about to get attacked, or see the reaction of Valiant Defense, Valiant Roll, Valiant Attack, Valiant Damage. So as they're about to attack, as they're about to do damage, as they're about to take damage, as they fail a roll, whatever it is, you can use these combat inspirations. So what I'll say about that is, right, like this in my mind has more applications in Bardic Inspiration, which is fun because most classes will use their Bardic Inspiration. Most of the Bard class will use their Bardic Inspiration as the resource for something. Like the Sword Bard will use as a resource for all of their sword abilities. So you've got that. Then the other thing they get is extra attack. So there's just nothing else the Valor Bard gets. The Valor Bard is definitely really a buffer. It's really meant to help out the party. And I really like using Valor Bard with Paladins. I think that's a really fun combination of subclass to really get a character that stands in the way and helps out. Like a Crown Paladin with Valor Bard is really cool. That offers you tons of ways to help the party out, right? But I just feel like the Valor Bard on its own doesn't offer enough. Like the Lore Bard is disgustingly good. Cutting words and the ability to get a whole nother, not divine secret, a magical secret is awesome. The Sword Bard and all of its capabilities, they're just so great. But the Valor Bard still sits above the Glamour Bard, the College of Glamour. So the College of Glamour, one of the newer ones, the newest one added with patch 8, has Mantle of Inspiration. Imbue 2 allies with your vigor and grant them 5 temp hit points. If they're hit with a melee attack, the attacker becomes charmed. Okay, well, this also goes into this. Mantle of Majesty Command. Command a creature to flee, move closer, freeze, drop to the ground, or drop its weapon. Targets that are charmed automatically fail their saving throw. So you use these two in conjunction. Basically, at level 6, anyone that gets hit by the Mantle of Inspiration, then you can command them to do whatever you want. It's okay. But it requires really, it requires the targets to maintain this temp hit point. So if they get hit for like 9 points of damage, it will completely remove their Mantle of Inspiration. So it's only good for 1 hit, period. And that's, I think, one of the biggest shortcomings of this. If this was imbue 2 allies with your vigor and grant them the mantle for 2 turns or 3 turns or a turn even, it has more wide spanning application. This is really only 1 hit. And then you have to then decide, it is nice, it is a bonus action. That's the let me clear that up right now. It's great action economy to be able to then command something after you've used your primary action to do something. but it requires so much finesse and knowledge of the game to get this off properly that the College of Glamour Bard just falls flat to me. I almost always am going to just simply choose the Lore Bard, which has such a massive power spike over this Bard and has way more crowd control at their disposal. Cutting Words is stupid good. We'll go take a look at it in a second. And then that's the only two things you get. You just get more temp hit points. At level 10, 11 temporary hit points is maybe still one hit. And it doesn't matter between 5 and 11, really, truly, honestly, because you can only have temp hit points from one source. So if you were to put this on your two characters, they can only have the 11 temp hit points. If they get temp hit points from an other source, and that source is more temporary hit points, it will not override and you will waste a charge. So there's a finesse that's required in using this to have the board presence to know what's up with the temporary hit point state of your characters. So let's say I have a resource that gives me 15 temporary hit points, but it's been knocked down to 1 temporary hit point left. Even if I were to cast this, the game will look at the source of the current temporary hit points. Its max temp is higher than this 11. It will not apply the 11. So even though you might think, oh, I'm 1 temporary hit point away from going to my health pool, I'll cast this. Nope, the game will just override that and keep the 1 hit point. It's a weird thing. I was hoping it would get fixed in patch 8. It did not, unfortunately. And just for continuity's sake, here is Cutting Words. Use your wit to distract a creature and sap its confidence. It receives a -1d6 penalty to attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. It's like a reaction. You use this in the midst of being attacked. I'd rather use this on any situation as it's presenting itself versus the set situation I have to use with the mantle. And then I can also get this. I know this is only one other ability, but this is really damn good. Magical Secrets. Learn 2 non-bard magical secrets, listed level 3 or lower. So you get the magical secrets that you get at level 10 and level 6 with the Lore Bard. It's just absolutely disgusting. Time now for the last one on our list, and it is the Champion Fighter. Let me get this out of the way too. The Champion Fighter is probably one of the single best dips you can do for a lot of characters in the game. By dip, I mean you just take 3 levels of fighter and you're good. Most cookie cutter Barbarian builds will go 9 of any of the Barbarians and then 3 fighter into Champion because their level 3 capability is really great. The number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. You can naturally get this number down to, I believe, 14. So on a 14 or higher, you'll critical hit. With this, it brings you down to 13. Or maybe that number's 13, it brings you down to 12. So that's huge, right? That's like, I don't know the math on that, but it's just over 60%. I'm sorry, just over 50% that is likely to not be a critical hit. So you're going to be critting a lot with improved critical, plus all the improved critical items. But after that, it just kind of loses its luster a bit here. And I've said that term, lose luster, quite a bit. Can you tell I did a bunch of Shakespeare crap when I was in college? You're a master of your own body. Your athletic prowess extended beyond the usual. Your jump distance is increased by 10 feet. Not terrible, because jump's really important in this game. But you can just get this an athlete if you so wish as a feat. So, and if you're playing a fighter, you get access to feats at level 6, level 8, it's level 4, level 6, level 8, and level 12. So you get 4 feats if you're playing a pure fighter. So yeah, this basically gives you free athlete, which is nice. It's also, you could also get this by getting athlete. So it's one of those things that it can be a catch-22 depending on how you look at it. And jumping 10 more feet is nice in this game, but it's also at the same time, I'd rather have an actual ability that affects my combat. Remarkable athlete proficiency. You're a master of your own body. Your athletic prowess extended beyond the usual. You can add half your proficiency bonus to any strength, dex, and constitution checks that you are not proficient in, which is quite nice. And it is nice. It's just part of level 7. You don't have to wait any further, but it's not huge. These checks that you're probably taking a look at that you're not proficient in are more than likely going to be dexterity saving throws as a result of as a result of trying to dodge like a fireball. Any kind of like save that is related to those 3 checks is really what this is going to benefit you. So it's not huge, but it's nice to have. And then level 10, you get an additional fighting style. Again, not huge, but nice to have. I don't think I've ever played a character or seen a build with a level 10 investment into champion, and I'd love to find one that does work. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section below if you can find 10 levels of champion to make it really work in a great way. I'd rather just take 3 and then spice into literally anything else, because I start with the fighting style. I then want to branch into, you could start with a fighting style here, then go into Ranger or Paladin and get another fighting style. You know what I mean? So you get this level 10 ability by just simply multi-classing one level into another class. And I think that's kind of a little bit of the crux here. With that being said, Fighter gets access to all of the fighting styles, whereas Ranger only has, I think it's archery, dueling, and 2 weapon fighting. And Paladin is defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, and protection. I think, don't quote me on that, but my point is you'll pick and choose how you're going to approach this. But it could be nice to start as a great weapon fighting or 2 weapon fighting and then pick up defense, or dueling and pick up defense, whatever it is. There are nice applications of this. I've just never seen anyone take 10 levels of champion, and I'd love to see it work. But this is my list of subclasses I think just need a little bit of love, even if it was just changing one thing here or there. Like I said, sometimes I'm just like, you know what, if you just removed this little bit of cost or added this little bit of duration or whatever it is to a lot of these abilities, it's not that that class would then be overpowered. I think it would just perform as well as its subclass competitors. Fighter is a good example here of, a lot of people initially thought when the game first came out that Eldritch Knight was the worst fighter subclass. Like, why would you ever take it? And time has shown us that it's actually not. It's one of the best subclasses in the game, period. And that's a really cool way that the game has evolved. People have learned how the interplay with certain weapons and items and what have you has changed over time. And on top of it, Larian's reaction and buffing things or changing things throughout patches has made that change even more evident. That's also another probably downfall of the champion. The Eldritch Knight, the Battlemaster, and the Arcane Archer are all 3 so distinctly cool and individualistic that the champion's just like, yeah, just be more of a fighter, man. Like, so I guess there's that kind of like downfall for that subclass. But go ahead and let me know in the comment section below if there's any subclasses you think that should be on this list. I'm sure Ranger Hunter is one that people talk about a lot, but I actually really like the Ranger Hunter. The Nature Cleric, I think, is another one people talk about, but I think Nature Cleric has some really cool applications that are really good and strong with the actual, because they have a lot of elemental play they can play around with. But go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Are there any other classes you would have, subclasses specifically you would have on this list? But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.